Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. I hope you're all having a fab day today. So if you're new here, hi, my name's Allarnah, and if you're not new here, then thanks for joining me for another video. So today's video is going to be very different from my channel, but I really wanted to try and do something new. I don't just want my channel to just be all makeup related all the time. Even though I love makeup, I don't just want to get stuck in a group where I only do makeup on my channel. So for today's video, as you can probably tell by the title, we're going to be talking about a solved true crime case. And the reason I wanted to do this is because I watch a lot of YouTubers that do this on their channels. I really enjoy watching them. I love watching true crime why is that so hard to say? I love watching true crime cases. I watch a lot of like CSI, like NCIS, Hawaii 5-0. I love stuff like that. So I thought, hey, let's give it a shot. This video was super interesting to like research and stuff like that. It was a little bit long-winded, but I really do want to know your guys' opinions on this. If you like videos like this, if you want me to do more, so please let me know if you want to see more videos like this. But for now, let's just jump straight on into the video. So before we start this video, I do want to give a huge disclaimer and warning. I by no means mean any disrespect to anyone that I talk about in this video. All the information in this video is just stuff that I have found on the internet and I am using to make this video. Also, if you are sensitive to cases that involve murder, or especially cases that involve children or adolescents, then please click off this video. If you do want to watch another video of mine, then I will leave one in the cards or in the description if you want to watch something by me. But this video is meant for mature audiences. So this case is known as the Barbie and Ken killers. It's called this because the killers are very attractive to the point where they look like Barbie and Ken dolls. So we're starting off today's case in the year of 1964, which is when Paul Bernardo was born into a very wealthy family. But behind closed doors, this was a very dysfunctional family. So you see, Paul Bernardo's father was very abusive to all of his past partners, including his current partner, which was Paul's mother, and her name was Marilyn. And Marilyn was actually having an affair with a previous partner of her own, and this actually led to the conception and birth of Paul. And now I know what you're thinking, so that would make Kenneth not Paul's father, and you would be right in thinking that. Kenneth was not Paul's biological father, however he did take full custody of Paul as if he was. And Paul actually never knew that Kenneth wasn't his real father. That was until he was 16, which, like, can you imagine finding out at 16 that the guy you thought was your dad isn't your dad? It wasn't like easy news for him to just come to terms with. He was actually really frustrated, like, towards his mother for lying to him for all those years about who his real father was. And Paul actually began to hold quite a lot of, like, resentment towards his mother. Then in the year of 1975, Kenneth, Paul's father, but not biological father, was actually charged with child molestation, as well as abusing his own daughter, Paul's older sister. Because of this, Marilyn, the mother, actually became really depressed and started distancing herself from the family, which left all of her children with no father figure and now no mother figure. Despite all of this, Paul actually went on to live quite a normal adolescent life. Paul was quite an attractive person, and whilst he was attending college, he actually had quite a few girlfriends throughout his time in college. However, none of these relationships would ever last too long, because after so long, Paul would start to show like abusive behaviours. And the other person that we need to know about in this case is Karla Homolka. I hope that I'm saying her surname right. Pretty sure that's how you say it. And there isn't actually that much information on Karla, so I'm gonna assume that she had quite a fairly normal upbringing and there's nothing really worth noting. There wasn't really that much online about her like life growing up. Now that we're all caught up on the backstory of the Barbie and Ken killers, let's get into how they actually got their serial killer names. So Paul and Karla actually met in a restaurant in the year of 1987 when Paul was 23 and Karla was 17. The two of them spent the entire night like flirting, talking, getting to know each other in this restaurant. And by the end of the night, they actually ended up going back to Karla's hotel room together. So Paul and Karla met in the fall of 1987. And at this time, there were 3 attacks linked to an unidentified person who was known as the Scarborough Rapist. The Scarborough Rapist was actually Paul Bernardo, but Karla did not know this at the time, and police did not know who was behind the Scarborough Rapist attacks. On May 29th of 1990, police released a deposit sketch of the Scarborough Rapist to the media, to which Paul's friends were actually amazed at the similarities. And Paul's best friends actually felt it necessary to bring this up to the police because of how much this composite sketch resembled their friend Paul. So police then brought Paul Bernardo in for questioning, and whilst they were doing this, they also requested a DNA sample, which Paul gave willingly, and Paul's sample was then sent off for DNA testing. However, this was in the 80s and DNA testing was nowhere near as advanced as it is today, and this could sometimes take quite a lot of time. And so within the time that it took to get the results back, or for even the DNA sample to be tested, Paul had actually moved in with Karla and her parents in St. Catherine's, which wasn't actually too far from Scarborough. This was just so that Paul and Karla could save up enough money to get a place of their own. Surprisingly though, the attacks in Scarborough suddenly stopped, but now there were attacks starting to occur in St. Catherine's. How very suspicious. The links to the sexual assaults in Scarborough and the sexual assaults in St. Catherine's were actually not linked until it was too late. So Paul and Karla's relationship started to get abusive, just like Paul's previous relationships. However, this time it was different, and Karla actually quite liked the abusive side to Paul, and she actually encouraged Paul to be abusive to others. She was quite like attracted to like the dangerous, mean side to him, which I mean, like, each to their own. It's a little bit strange to encourage someone to be abusive to other people, in my opinion, but that's just my opinion. After only 2 months of knowing each other, the two of them got engaged in the November of 1987. And Karla's family really liked Paul. They treat him as part of the family. And Paul actually started spending quite a lot of time at Karla's parents, a lot more time than he spent at his own family's home. Over the next 3 years, Paul would become a serial rapist between the years of 1987 and the year of 1990. Paul would commit a number of crimes, including raping 10 girls, attempting to rape a further 6, and also a number of various assaults. And these are just the confirmed numbers. There could be way more of people that just never came forward and like reported the crime that had been committed on them, but they're just the confirmed numbers. So Karla's family never knew that Paul was the Scarborough rapist, and Karla's younger sister Tammy actually looked up to Paul as like an older brother type figure. But Tammy soon became a target for Paul, as he wanted something that Karla would never be able to give him, and that was Tammy's virginity. And Paul actually made this very clear to Karla and began making her feel really guilty because she couldn't personally give Paul what he wanted. So anyway, because of all the guilt that Karla had like built up, she was actually helping Paul spy on Tammy when she was undressing. She would do things like open her blinds in her bedroom or even leaving her door slightly open. And this was all just so that Karla could try to please Paul. But eventually this wasn't enough for Paul, and he began to really pressure Karla about wanting to take Tammy's virginity. So much so that Karla eventually felt so guilty that she could not give Paul her own virginity that she decided to give him Tammy's. Which, I mean, that's not really your decision, sis. So both Paul and Karla put together a plan to drug Tammy using drugs that Karla actually stole from her job. So Karla actually worked as a vet, so that's where she stole these drugs from. And Karla also soaked like a cloth or rag in halothane to hold over Tammy's face so that she would stay unconscious throughout the whole attack. Paul then sexually assaulted Tammy and actually encouraged Karla to join in assaulting her own sister. Like, as if all that wasn't enough and wasn't bad enough, he actually wanted her to join in. Like, that just blows my mind. And they also recorded the whole attack as well. But Tammy actually started to like come back to, and she was vomiting and she was throwing up on her own vomit. And the pair of them panicked. They quickly dressed Tammy and they dialed 911. When the paramedic arrived, they told this whole story about how Tammy liked to go out to parties, she mixed alcohol and drugs, just kind of painting a picture of this like wild child. They then went on to say that Tammy passed out, and that's when they rang for an ambulance. Tammy was then taken to hospital, but on the early hours of Christmas Eve, Tammy was actually pronounced dead. Tammy's death was ruled as an accident despite her having chemical burns on her face from where the rag had been held on her face. But of course the couple could explain this. They went on to say that the burn must have been there from the rug from when they tried to resuscitate Tammy before the paramedics got there, and that was enough for Tammy's death to be ruled as an accident. Tammy's death was actually the first of a series of sexual assaults and murders that the couple would go on to commit. They would more or less target young adolescent women. A month goes by and Paul and Karla move into their own home in another town, which wasn't too far from St. Catherine's, which was where Karla's parents lived. And then on June 15th, 1991, 2 weeks before Paul and Karla's wedding day, Paul spotted the couple's next victim, Leslie Mahaffey. Leslie Mahaffey was abducted from her own garden. Paul lured Leslie to his car by offering her a cigarette, and Leslie was actually locked out of her house that night as a punishment by her parents for missing her curfew. In the early hours of the morning, Karla was woke up by Paul to a surprise, that surprise being Leslie standing beside him. The couple held Leslie captive in their own home. They repeatedly assaulted Leslie and recorded the whole thing. And within less than 24 hours of holding Leslie captive, the couple strangled her. They then cut up her body. They then went on to encase her different body parts in concrete blocks before dumping them in a nearby lake. Then 2 weeks later, the couple married. But on that very same day, fishermen found the body of Leslie Mahaffey in the lake. And at this point, Paul's DNA sample from the Scarborough rapist attacks still hadn't been tested, making Paul believe that he had completely gotten away with the attacks in Scarborough. And the attacks in Scarborough and the attacks in St. Catherine's still hadn't been connected. Over the next year, Karla would lure in several young girls, most of which were actually Tammy's friends, to drug and sexually abuse with Paul. Unlike Tammy, the girls would regain consciousness and not remember a single thing from their attacks. On April 16th, 1992, the couple were out looking for another young girl to attack, and just a few miles away from their home, they spot Kristen French, a 15-year-old girl, walking home from school. The couple pulled into a church parking lot and waited for Kristen to pass by. Karla was sat in the passenger seat holding a map. She then asked Kristen for help with directions. Unbeknown to Kristen, when she went over to help, she was shoved into the couple's car and driven back to their house. Kristen was actually reported missing fairly quickly because obviously her parents were expecting her home. She was only walking home from school. And immediately people began to come forward to say that they had witnessed the abduction in the car park. Witnesses told police that they saw Kristen get shoved into a beige Camaro. So police obviously begin searching for this car. However, this was actually a false lead because Paul Bernardo actually drove a gold Nissan. The pair kept Kristen for several days, repeatedly assaulting her, torturing her, and also forcing her to watch the previous attacks that they had already done and obviously recorded. All the time recording the assaults and everything else that they were doing to Kristen herself. Eventually, Paul strangled Kristen, and it wasn't long before her naked body was found in a ditch. In this time, the abuse from Paul towards Karla was getting a lot more intense, with one occasion actually resulting in Karla having to go to hospital. So remember the DNA sample that Paul gave? Well, finally, after 2 years from when he had originally given the sample, it was finally tested, confirming that Paul was in fact the Scarborough rapist. So the detectives in charge of the Scarborough rapist attacks actually contacted the lead detectives for the murders of the 2 girls and told them to pull up their files and test the DNA samples from the girls with the DNA samples from the Scarborough rapist attacks, and obviously it was found that it was the same guy. Karla was discharged from hospital and she decided to leave the house that she lived in with Paul Bernardo and move back in with her family. Police visited Karla regarding the domestic abuse that she was hospitalised for. However, this wasn't the only reason they were visiting. You see, they also brought along lead detectives in charge of the Leslie Mahaffey and Kristen French murders. And these detectives were very well known and easily recognisable because of all the news stories on the murders and the ongoing investigation. Most people knew their faces. Police never actually mentioned anything about the murders. They were only asking questions regarding the domestic abuse. However, just the sheer fact of the detectives being there gave Karla the message that they knew something. After this interview with the police, Karla broke down and came clean and told her parents everything, because she was scared that police already knew about the awful crimes her and Paul had committed. Karla got an attorney and admitted to all 3 murders, including her sister Tammy's, but she blamed it on the fact that Paul was abusive and he forced her to do these things, and she never would have committed any of these crimes off her own back. Karla only agreed to testify against Paul if her possible sentence would be reduced. Police then arrested Paul and got a search warrant for his house because Paula had actually told police about how they recorded all of the assaults. And over a 71-day search of Paul's house, the recordings weren't found, which Karla claimed that the attacks of all 3 girls were on these recordings, meaning that Karla's word was all prosecutors had in order to press charges on Paul for these attacks. Karla was charged with manslaughter for her part in Kristen French and Leslie Mahaffey's murders, to which she received 2 12-year sentences, but she actually got nothing regarding her own sister's murder. Paul pleaded not guilty to all of his charges that he was facing, which included murder, rape, and assault. The tapes were eventually found in Paul's house, which actually show that Karla had way more to do with these crimes than she had let on. But by this point, it was actually too late. She had already received her sentence for the crimes, and the plea deal was already made, and unfortunately, you can't go back on the plea deal. Paul was eventually found guilty to all 9 charges against him, including 2 counts of first-degree murder for Leslie and Kristen. Paul was originally sentenced to life in prison with the possibility for parole after 25 years, but the judge then labelled him as a dangerous offender, and so more than likely he will spend the rest of his life in prison, which, I mean, so he should. All the crimes that he committed, he killed 3 people, so he should serve the rest of his life in prison. Karla, on the other hand, is now actually free from prison. She's out, and since has had a son. I personally feel like Karla got off really lightly in this. Like, she definitely had way more to do with it than she let on, and just because them tapes were found after she was sentenced, she got off of it so lightly, and it actually frustrates me so much. Like, all you can do is hope that she won't ever do that again. But with the nature of the murders and how much she had to do with it, it is scary to think that someone like that is actually out and just freely walking about. Do you know what I mean? And she has her own son now as well. It's just crazy, absolutely crazy to me. And on that note, that is the end of this case. I know this case is very popular, but as this was like my first attempt at doing a video like this, I did want to make sure that I could get plenty of information and I could like cross-reference it, make sure what I was saying was actually true. So that's why I picked a popular case. I hope you guys don't mind. Please let me know if you enjoyed this video and if you would like me to do more. I honestly really enjoyed doing this. Even though it was like time consuming, it's really worth it. And I actually like reading up on like true crime cases. I don't know, I've always been kind of into like criminal minds and things like that, so it's quite interesting to me. So if you guys do want to see more videos like this, then just let me know. I'll be more than happy to do it. They are quite time consuming, like I said, so they won't happen all the time, but I could just drop a couple in there every now and again. So yeah, if you did enjoy this video, please don't forget to leave me a like and a comment down below letting me know, and please don't forget to subscribe, because as I keep telling you guys, about 40 to 50% of my viewers are not subscribed. So if you're watching my videos when they come out anyway, you might as well subscribe, and you might as well turn that post notification bell on so that you know my videos go live, and just join the fam, you know? Like I said, I do really hope you guys enjoyed this video. Thank you so much for joining me today and watching till the end, and I shall see you guys in the next one. Bye!